Williams of Daphne, Alabama, was offered by USC. And in basketball, 6'4" TJ Moss of Memphis, who's at Findlay Prep in Las Vegas, remains unsigned. His team played in Columbia in the Chick-fil-A Classic. USC got a chance to see him there. They liked him, and they've offered him. His father tells us South Carolina is in strong shape with him at this point. They love Frank Martin and his style of play. Thinks Columbia is a great town. They'll visit sometime probably in March once they can get everything worked out. Memphis and Minnesota, two others to keep an eye on with 6'4" TJ Moss of Memphis, a combo guard who's playing point guard out at Findlay Prep in Las Vegas. All right, there you go with recruiting. Let's talk some hoops here on Sports Talk. Yes. Time to welcome into Sports Talk for an edition of Give and Go to the outstanding guards from our states in the last, 100 years. Jordan Roper and Aaron Lucas. Good to have the two of you with us. So, Jordan, your boys lit it up in the second half. Have you ever been, even in practice, in a situation where a team hit 15 shots in a row?
Probably so, but not very often. It's pretty rare.
You watching that the other night, and you're seeing them kind of fight their way back from 18 down, cut it to 2. Did you think they were going to get it done?
You have that hope. You're cheering with you. You're thinking with that mindset that they get it done. But more so, I wish that they started with half of that, and they got off to a really slow start, and they fought their way back. But it's a different basketball game when you're playing from behind as opposed to playing with a lead. So,
well, you've been there before in Chapel Hill with Clemson. You know the mindset. You try to avoid the mindset, but I guess the mindset is still always there when a Clemson team goes into Chapel Hill. What did you sense from them early on that led to them falling in behind by double digits?
The thing that we have to keep in mind is these are the defending national champions in college basketball. And the Dean Dome is probably one of the toughest places to play in college basketball. It happens in basketball. You start out slow. You have cold starts. You have strong finishes, or you have a strong start and you have a slow finish. I think their mindset was just to, take every possession at a time, the same mindset that they have going in other games. I know the few times that we went to Chapel Hill, the streak or whatever wasn't on our mind. We were just trying to beat North Carolina that year. So, I think those guys, they were playing with confidence, playing with the momentum that they've built so far this year. And we have to keep in mind that's their third loss. So, they're still in a great position. And, it happens. You lose basketball games, you win basketball games. But, it's definitely tough that it's 0-59.
Yeah.
to the Gamecocks, Aaron, who outscored Kentucky 33-11 in the final 11:30 of game action on Tuesday. What changed in your mind from South Carolina's perspective to earn that victory?
Well, I think it was mainly just a sense of urgency. The guys came out in the first half, realized some of their mistakes, some of their miscues, and I'm sure Frank Martin and staff put together some adjustments for them to come out in the second half to be effective.
What about the guard play surprised you? I know that from Wes Myers, that's a guy who I think people have been wanting him to take that next step. I believe he did that in the game. And also from the front court perspective, we all know what Chris Silva can do, but it seemed like Mike Kotsar transformed into the player we saw last year. His real development early gave South Carolina a little bit of a spark that they needed to get that big start that they had.
Well, again, I think from the backcourt, Wesley Myers is slowly starting to come into his own, gaining more confidence with each game. And obviously that's showing his play, and I think that it's helping, get the team in the offensive sets and get us into the looks that Coach Martin is trying to get us in. I think Kotsar tried to figure out a little bit more of where his role fits. Again, when you transition out of kind of being a third tier kind of guy, and then you move into more of a secondary role, you kind of have to, it takes time to figure out where exactly you're going to fit in times and occasions. And he's starting to figure that out. And I think the team as a whole is starting to mature and really putting some good basketball together.
Jordan, tell us the truth now. I know you still play point guard at Clemson when you watch him on TV. So I gotta feel that you were looking at that game saying, man, I'd have gotten that ball into Thomas on that play, especially with May guarding him. Do you think they really missed a chance early in that first half to really just give Thomas all he could eat early? And we all know big men, once you get them involved, they usually stay focused the rest of the game if you feed them early.
Yeah. I thought, we could have got it to the post a little bit more, especially with the matchup with May. But at the same token, Sheldon Mitchell played, one of his better games this season. I think he got 18 points. He's one of those guys that hit 3 threes in the second half. So, I mean, in the same another token, you still have to play the game. I was probably one of those point guards that was like, you still got to play if you're not getting the ball. I was a little bit more of a scoring guard, but I think we could utilize our bigs more, but I think the balanced attack is what we have to stay with. And again, North Carolina is a great team. They always have been. It's a historic program. And, they're going to have to come into Little John, and I don't think it'll be that same type of game. I think we'll get off to a great start. And, they'll be on the road that time. So, yeah, I think it'll be a different game next time.
What I wanted to ask you, Jordan, too, having gone through it, I mean, do we in the media and the fans make too much of the streak? I mean, I know 0-59, it's a historical thing now, and it comes up whenever Clemson goes up there. But from the player standpoint, is it something that rides on their backs whenever this game rolls around?
I think it's a little bit more of just, media fun. It's just a, fun fact that you point out for the game. I don't think that either team really pays attention to the streak. Like I said, basketball, there's many games. There's some years where North Carolina came to Clemson and we didn't go to North Carolina, but we had a better team and we won the game.
Yeah.
So, there's situations like that, but I think it's more so, just media focused. I don't think that either side really pays attention to it. Obviously, for North Carolina, you want to keep the streak going just because it's, it's something cool to have, and you obviously want to break the streak, but it's definitely not part of the game plan. We have to win this one game, and it's going to change our whole season. It's definitely not anything like that.
All right, guys, hang on if you don't mind. We'll do a little overtime piece with you here. We come back from the break. Give and Go with Jordan Roper and Aaron Lucas here on Sports Talk. Be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Plenty of basketball around the state of South Carolina tonight. USC women playing at Vanderbilt. Boston College women at Clemson. East Tennessee's at Furman. Citadel's playing at Greensboro. Wilmington at Charleston. Jacksonville at Upstate. Charleston Southern at Campbell. Presbyterian at Gardner-Webb. Wofford at Sanford. Coastal at South Alabama. And Asheville at Winthrop tonight.
That Wofford-Furman game that I was going to go to ended up being a pretty good game over the weekend last week.
Good win for Wofford. Unfortunately, we put the Sports Talk jinx on Bob Ritchie and Furman.
It's bad.
Back to a give and go with Aaron Lucas and Jordan Roper. So, Aaron, looking at the Gamecocks now, a win on the road over Georgia, a win at home against Kentucky, Tennessee at home Saturday night. Now, fans are turning out, students are coming out. Seems to be confidence and energy. Can they make a run here, you think? Can this team get back to the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think I think they have the ability to make the tournament. Obviously, that's always a big challenge for any team across the country. But again, I think Frank Martin's DNA has been placed on this program, and guys are starting to learn that. And of course, with a brand new team, starting to figure out who the leaders are. And I think I talked about that back before the holiday break, was just we haven't found a leader yet. And I think guys are starting to discover their roles and discover how they can impact the team. You think about Frank Booker as well as Chris Silva actually being more vocal with their teammates. So I think this team can definitely put a string of wins together and continue what they've been doing. And I look forward to seeing how the rest of the season turns out.
And you never know how things are going to turn out in a long basketball season. They had the injury to Gravitt, so he has to sit for a while. They put Henson in the starting lineup. They start Myers at the point. Now they can bring Gravitt and they can bring Booker off the bench, Aaron, and give them some firepower there. You think that's a lineup Frank's going to stay with here down the second half of the season?
Well, again, I think it's one of those things, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And, an unfortunate injury to Hassani Gravitt actually gave Wesley Myers an opportunity to get more floor experience. And without Corey Holden as well, give him more experience on the floor, kind of get a better feel for the game when you're actually out there, a lot more minutes on the floor. So I think it was a gift and a curse, and it's starting to pay off right now.
Jordan Littlejohn's been very friendly to the Clemson Tigers, but the last two times away from home, they've kind of looked like Jekyll and Hyde. And I know they had some big victories away from home, with the obvious victory at Ohio State and the victory down against Florida, which was a technical neutral site game, but it was basically all Florida fans. What is so difficult for collegiate athletes? And again, you could speak to this too, Aaron, but what makes the big difference playing away from home when you're in college versus playing at home?
Well, I think the two road losses, those are, in my opinion, two of the toughest places to play in the ACC, including Cameron Indoor Arena. PNC Arena is very, very loud. The students are all around the court, and same with the Dean Dome. So, but the tough thing with playing on the road is, you really have to get into a routine that you're not used to, as opposed to being at home where you're comfortable and where you practice. You get on the road, you go shoot around, you come back the next day, shoot before the game, you warm up, but that's really it. You really have to have some kind of experience of being in the arena or being on the road in general as a collegiate athlete to, be comfortable playing.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Aaron, obviously their bodies are not on the court, but you talked about the guard play and how the guys are playing well, the veterans off the bench. Having these young guys now in practice, Brian Bowen, Rob Felder to play against in practice, do you think that has infused any type of really impetus in this guard play of playing against guys that talented who can't get on the floor but challenge you on the practice court?
Well, I think that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is there are guys that you haven't been practicing against, so it's similar to playing against an opponent every day in practice that you have to get familiar with, learn new tendencies. So not only are they talented and they have a lot of experience with that talent, I think they also bring a different aspect as far as who they are. They're different people that you're not banging against and practice against every day, and now you're having to do that and adjust. And I think that's preparing guys to go out and face different caliber players every night.
All right. Final couple of moments here, give and go with Jordan Roper and Aaron Lucas, and let's address the big elephant in the state, and that's Zion Williamson. Saturday night announcement at 8 o'clock. Both of you guys went through the recruiting deal, maybe not quite the fanfare that Zion Williamson is getting, but in your own day, you got attention from me at least. I called you and talked about you. Jordan, Tiger folks are pretty confident they're going to get him. What do you think from what you're hearing inside, outside, your gut? What do you think?
I mean, I agree with Tiger fans. I think that we have a really, really good shot at him. I think it'd be a good publicity for the program, bring some more excitement towards Clemson basketball, what they've built on so far this year. If I were to talk to him, I'd tell him, make a similar decision that I made, and that's to go to Clemson.
Yeah. And you chose Clemson because?
Well, I felt that, it's a great opportunity to get an education within South Carolina. And then obviously the chance to play ACC basketball. That's the top conference in basketball. You'll play against the best competition, historic franchise, programs and coaches, and it's a great opportunity.
All right, Aaron, from your side, I mean, I think there's some South Carolina people holding out hope that they could pull this one off. At least one of the national basketball pundits, Bian Cardi of ESPN, has put his voice out there saying he's going to pick South Carolina. I don't know what he knows, what he doesn't know. What do you know, or what do you feel from what you've been hearing?
Of course, I think I've heard what everyone else has heard, that he possibly would be leaning more to Clemson, but it's still up in the air, and you just never know. I look back at guys like Stephon Gilmore and Jadeveon Clowney, as well as Marcus Lattimore, who made big decisions to come to Columbia. And, I tweeted this the other day. I think, if coming to Columbia, I think would have a bigger impact for the state, not from a bias standpoint that I'm speaking from. But obviously going to Clemson would still be great for the state. So either way, I think it'll be exciting. I'll definitely be one to follow.
Well, you go back to your days when you chose South Carolina. Keeping that in mind, what would you tell Zion about South Carolina and why he should pick it?
Well, I think my main reason for staying in Columbia was I could see the trending of the program and the direction that it was heading. And I felt excited that I could be a part of that and hopefully take it to an even higher level. And so I was extremely excited to stay in Columbia. Obviously have a great education and be around a great community of fans and family and friends. So if I had an opportunity to tell them that, I would tell them to, obviously look at both communities and both programs and see which one best fits you.
Guys, as always, we thank you very much. Enjoy a great weekend of basketball coming up. I know you'll be locked in on your respective teams. We'll check you next week.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Jordan Roper and Aaron Lucas, give and go here on Sports Talk.
With respect to Aaron's comment about the impact, he will play in front of more people if he goes to South Carolina, just by virtue of the fact that South Carolina's building is almost twice the size of Littlejohn.
Mm-hmm.
So in that respect, you're looking at that exposure inside the state a little bit bigger for that vein, and also the fact that you have the SEC network involved as well. A lot more of those games get on regular TV as opposed to the Clemson games, which are on ACC network, which people have to use their apps to get.
Well, also there is, and I hate to use this term, but I'm going to use it anyway. The thought of the soap opera of a guy like Frank Martin and a one and done, and you're going to do it my way, kind of interests me.
As if it wouldn't work.
And plus, we know that the
You think it wouldn't work?
As it would work, I think.
And,
but they would be in a tangled web, I believe.
Keep in mind where the basket brawl is played this year. It's played in Columbia. So you'd get the home court advantage for that if you went there.
Back in a moment. All right, thanks again to Aaron Lucas, Jordan Roper for being with us here on Sports Talk. If you want to join us, 800-956-7266 is the number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Got some email we can address here as well while we wait for some calls to roll in. Lines are open. If you want to join us, 800-956-7266. This is, may I?
Sure.
No, go ahead. You're going to say something.
Well, it was something we were talking about earlier off the air. A lot of flack coming in off of the schedule release yesterday from Clemson, and the fact that if you look at and project what they will play against next year, they got themselves quite a bit of fortune in playing a lot of those ranked games early against, Auburn and Louisville, Virginia Tech. I mean, looking at their schedule this upcoming season, there might be one game on that schedule that poses the same kind of furor that the schedule they had this past year. I mean, maybe Florida State is ranked by the time they play them, but I don't know if there is that kind of built-in cushion for them like they've had the past couple of years where they could take a loss and have the backbone of their strength of schedule hold up water, because in Clemson's past, they've been able to lose to Pittsburgh and still bank on that schedule and some quality wins. I don't know where the quality wins are on this schedule. It looks awful soft.
But something else they got now.
Equity.
It's called RESPECT.
It's true.
And they get the benefit of the doubt. When they lose a game, they get the benefit of the doubt. Committee sees a team that's been to 3 straight, won a national championship in there. So,
but they didn't have a very good showing.
Who is the
in the semifinal?
But I think you're right. I mean, they won't have the strength of schedule in all likelihood. And 2, look who they get from the Coastal. I mean, Georgia Tech's the annual, but no Miami, no Virginia Tech.
You get
Duke, which is Duke is Duke, and Duke is okay.
But then again, people talked about Alabama's schedule, but Alabama had the cachet. And
Alabama had the 7th toughest schedule this season on the metrics.
I don't look at metrics. We knew that
the committee does. The committee looks at the metrics. That's who counts.
When you look at Clemson's schedule.
The point is, people complained about Alabama's schedule. They didn't play anybody, and Alabama got in, and they are the national.
I mean, let's look at it team for team. I mean, Furman have replaced their quarterback, but they'll be a good FCS team, but it's still an FCS team. They go out to Texas A&M.
Which is when they probably scheduled that game, it looked a hell of a lot better than I'm sure it does now.
But it's still Texas A&M. It's still on the road.
It's a tough game.
It'll be kind of a test. Georgia Southern, no, they're not even as good as they were when they were FCS big boys. They're rebuilding now with a new coach. At Georgia Tech, I have no fear of Paul Johnson anymore. Syracuse, that'll be payback time. Payback is hell.
Yeah.
At Wake Forest, okay, it's still Wake Forest. NC State,
not the same NC State.
Losing a lot of good people. We'll have the quarterback back, but still losing a lot of good people. At Florida State, who knows what kind of shape they're going to be in? Who knows what Louisville's going to be with a new quarterback? You know what? At Boston College.
That could be the Syracuse of this year.
That kid up there, that young quarterback they have is pretty. If he's healthy and playing at that stage of the season.
And the defense is salty.
People forget that was a tie game in the 4th quarter.
Yes.
Yep. And then Duke and then the Gamecocks. So, it's not an overwhelming schedule in terms of.
Heck, maybe the Gamecocks are ranked by the time they play them. Who knows?
Well, I read Josh Kendall's prediction early, as he put it, way too early, breakdown for the Gamecocks next year. He had the Gamecocks winning 10. And losing to Clemson by, I think it was 2 points.
2 points, yeah.
Yeah, lose to Georgia and lose to Clemson by
30-28, I think was his score.
So,
and this also stands to reason something we talked about a couple days ago. We were talking about them ramping up to the schedule release and how hard they would make it. And this was something Pro and I were talking about while you were watching Clemson and UNC in Chapel Hill. It would stand to reason that the ACC needs another power to rise up alongside Clemson, because the same thing that was at least kind of coming down the hill for Alabama was a possible Alabama fatigue until Georgia comes out and basically stands next to them and provides a second pillar in that conference. Until Clemson gets a second pillar in that conference, you're going to have schedules that look like this one every other year.
Yeah.
When you don't have to, do anything outside of, say, go to Florida State.
Yeah. I think Florida State's going to rebound. Maybe it might not be in 2018. I think maybe by 2019. Taggart, he didn't, he had it going there at South Florida, and he had a special quarterback. Then he leaves. He goes out to Oregon, and what were they kind of so-so this year?
Everybody in that conference. I mean, that conference is the pinnacle of cannibalizing yourself.
But with Taggart and his connections there in the state of Florida, and Florida State being Florida State's, you got to believe they're going to get their players. And I do believe that if Francois is healthy and fully mobile and able to do what he did prior to his injury, it makes them a threat.
Yeah.
They certainly have other good skilled people returning. I know they lose the really good receiver who's going early to the draft, kid from Irmo originally. But they still have, I think Patrick is back at running back. They'll have skilled people to put around him. Now, it's a new coaching staff for the most part, a new defensive coordinator, and
no Derwin James though.
They got to regain the swagger that Florida
Right.
State used to always play with. That swagger now resides up in Clemson.
I think if they get a defense,
a little bit Miami too.
Long-term Virginia Tech could be a thorn in somebody's side. They really can.
Well, it would help that second pillar ends up on Clemson's schedule every year, so that could boost them. But if it also ends up in the Coastal, that could at least mean that Clemson gets a formidable opponent in that ACC championship game.
A little piece of news out of USC football administration.
Yes, this was first. I first saw this with the Big Spur. I don't know if anybody else has it, but John Whittle says that it looks like Robbie Lyles has accepted a position outside of collegiate athletics. For those of you who've followed South Carolina football, you know that he's been at South Carolina for a while. He was the director of high school relations there and director of recruiting operations and director of player personnel. He was basically serving at the behest and right hand of Will Muschamp over the last couple of seasons. Big Spurs reporting that they're looking to possibly take somebody out of Florida, and Muschamp's connections there, a guy by the name of George Wynn, who was a cornerback at Georgia and familiar as a teammate of Muschamp's while he was at the Bulldogs, and also in that role at Florida for 7 years while Muschamp was there. So that's something, again, that could be in the works. But Robbie Lyles leaving to go in a position outside of college athletics from the Gamecocks.
Well, good luck to him. And I know he's got a young family. Don't know if the time and the hours you have to put into it played a role in this, or he just decided he'd had enough and he's ready to get into the business world. Young man who grew up in the state of South Carolina in the beautiful little town of Ridgeland.
I'd been with the Gamecocks since 01.
That's where I began my actual real radio career, full-time out of college. My first full-time job was at WBUG.
Does that compare to my first job, which was in Farmington, Missouri, small town there? Kind of same deal.
How did we go from my first job to your first job? See, I was telling my story. How did we end up telling your story?
Because this is all about our story.
No, it's about my story. It was only about my story. Okay. I was connecting my story to Robbie.
It's fun.
Okay.
I was connecting your story to mine.
Go ahead and tell your story.
I don't have.
I'm sure your story is much more interesting than my story.
That's all we wanted to know was where he did it.
What was the name of your radio station?
It was KREI AM and J98 The Boot, KTJJ in Farmington,
And they
Missouri.
eventually gave you the boot?
They did not give me the boot. I gave them the boot after 10 months.
You see one of those windows on the buildings across the street? That's where I started my first job.
Doing what?
In radio. WOIC had their
across the street
production studios there, and Bill Terrell was the first guy that hired me.
How about that?
Yes.
All right. So good luck to Robbie, and sounds like Muschamp's already got his guy pegged for coming in.
Yeah, he says that they don't have necessarily a confirmation on it being George Wynn, but at least that's according to what the Big Spur believes is where it will go.
All right. Greensboro up on the Citadel, 41-26. Late in the first half of that game up in Greensboro. 800-956-7266 is the number. We'll be right back.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. What are you, frozen in time?
You said hold your breath.
Yeah, you hold your breath until next year and see if that comes to pass. Let's see. Furman and East Tennessee. Yes, sir.
I'll let you go to Oxford if you let me go to Duke. Bargaining.
We'll talk about that.
We can bargain a little bit.
Furman is up on East Tennessee. Big SoCon game. It's 13-8 in Greenville.
Because you've never been to Oxford, and I've never been to a game at Duke.
Well, I've never been to Oxford. This is correct. And going to a basketball game at Duke is a heck of an experience.
So is going to a football game in Oxford, Mississippi.
Only a few places where you can watch 8 against 5.
But see, really, when you're in the media at Duke and you sit on press row.
Sit in the gondola, right?
No. That's for the radio people.
Okay.
You sit on press row on the floor, and I mean, the students are so well trained. They're very nice and they're very respectful. But I mean, they're on your back. They're literally touching you during the game. I mean, like when there's a ball out of bounds near you, and it's the other team, the students will reach around you to put their hands out and try to upset the opponent.
I've been molested by worse. It's fine.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, USC target Jermaine Couisnard was offered by Virginia Tech, by the way. Don't think we mentioned that. All right, some email in here that I wanted to get to while we have time. This is from Rick talking about women's basketball. Women's basketball are allowed 15 scholarships. Dawn Staley said she has 8 healthy players to dress for Vandy. There are 3 currently injured and 1 still waiting on NCAA clearance. Who are the 3 I am missing? Pro, you are USC women's basketball correspondent.
What 3 what he's talking about?
He says there's 3. She's got 8 healthy.
Yeah.
3 currently injured, 1 waiting on NCAA clearance.
Well, the one that's waiting on clearance is Taya Cooper.
That's 12. Yes. So he wants to know who are the 3 girls he's missing.
Well, Herbert Harrigan is gone. Aja Wilson.
We're talking about the ones that are not injured and are not healthy and are not waiting on NCAA clearance.
I have no earthly idea.
Very disappointing. They come to us for this information. We should deliver.
Wait a minute. So she has 8 healthy.
Plus 8 healthy, 3 hurt, and 1 sitting out. And he wants to know who the other 3 are.
There can't be 3.
He said they got 15 on scholarship.
You only have 30.
They have 15 scholarships. That don't mean she used 15 scholarships.
Oh, I thought you have 13.
Well, look at their roster. The men have 13.
It is 13.
It's 13 scholarships.
No, the women have 15.
Women have 15.
Oh, they do? Okay.
This is from Robert. Why does Pelagic get louder and louder and louder when the professor or you don't agree with him? The man sounds like a little girl yelling when they don't get their way.
Darn.
Are you reading that? Is that a real email?
This is a real email. I hate to tell him, but the louder he gets, the more people get turned off. Even hurts my ears sometimes. He is so loud.
I hate to tell you, Robert, most of the time when I'm yelling, I'm right.
I am in agreement with you. He needs to be shot. Just kidding.
Wow.
This is from last night.
Well, actually, Will is like an umpire, often wrong, but never in doubt.
Thanks for letting me vent, Robert. You want to say something back to Robert?
I told you what I said back to Robert. I said I might be yelling, but guess what? Most of the time when I'm yelling, I'm right.
All right, this is from Joel. I'm a longtime listener to your show. I think I started listening when Mick Mixon was the host and you were the sidekick. It was the other way around.
How did he spell Pelagic, by the way, Robert?
How did he spell it?
Yeah, did he spell it right?
Yes.
Get out.
P-A-L-A-S-Z-C-Z-U-K. I think he copy and pasted it.
Get out.
Looks like a copy and paste.
I didn't know that they could spell down here.
Anyway. Ooh. Are you questioning the intelligence of our audience?
I think you should be able to spell Pelagic.
I don't think Pelagic is on the spelling.
Well, he got it right.
Yeah,
anyway, listening when Mick Mixon was the host and you were the sidekick. Yeah, I don't think I was the sidekick. I think I was the host. But anyway, it's been great over all these years. Tonight, I had to turn off the radio. Just a few minutes ago, Will, the professor, and you got into this long, heated discussion about some minute point. It was awful. What was that point? It wasn't minute.
Yesterday?
Yeah. Tonight is the only time this has happened. listen to your show because you have news and insight into sports at Carolina, and also because it's not regular talk radio, not Democrats or Republicans.
The heck were we talking about?
If I wanted to listen to people going at each other, I'd listen to Limbaugh or Hannity or any of the other wannabes out there.
I tell you,
you have to stop this. You have to take control of your show. I don't know if Will is the cause, but it has happened much more since you hired him.
What's his name?
I suspect that I'm not the only one in the state who has this opinion.
What's this?
Please do something.
What's this guy's name?
This would be Joel.
Joel.
I can't remember what we were talking about.
Joel, here's how you fix that. Have the guts to dial the phone and call in and tell us your opinion. You're hiding behind those keyboards and you're typing them in.
No, he put his name on there. He put his full name.
But call up.
From Conway.
People don't understand that the object of this medium is a discussion medium. We're not supposed to agree.
What were we disagreeing over? I'm trying to remember.
I can't freaking remember. We disagree over so much.
I think it was a good argument. In fact, I remember saying when we went off the air there, good argument.
It wasn't about waterfowls with Captain Billy, was it?
No, it was prior to that. Let's see here. All right, back to
water, Foul.
Foul, yeah. What were we talking
about? Back to the USC offense. This is from Mike.
Oh, you know what it was? It was the offensive coordinator thing. Maybe.
Going up tempo was a step in the right direction. Roper very rarely did that. More importantly, we tried Rico once or twice in the first half to see if he could go, then saved him for the second half. Talent matters. Rico comes in. The running game becomes effective, opening up the passing game. Carolina comes back and win. That is what a good OC does, and he pulled it off. His scheme worked to perfection.
What scheme?
Look, USC was far from at full strength, but he took the pieces he had and won. And what was the spread when that game started? Love Sports Talk.
People love trying to make this revisionist history about how great Michigan was. Clemson held that South Carolina offense to 10. Okay, I mean, come on. It's not like Michigan was the steel curtain defense up there.
Well, they were number 3 in the country.
They were pretty good.
Yeah,
Clemson was probably 2.
I think South Carolina got it going late in the third quarter for whatever you want to say, whatever reasons you want to use, figuring out the scheme, better protections, Rico Dowdle. I mean, they ran off 173 yards in offense in that period of time when they scored their points. Prior to that, they'd done nothing. So the scheme offensively didn't work for almost 3 full quarters, and then for whatever reason, they found something and it worked.
Short fields, too.
I still say I saw a comfort level in Jake Bentley I hadn't seen. Jake Bentley with Roper upstairs would not have rolled out and hit Hayden Hurst on that 3rd and 18. And then the next pass he threw, his footwork was impeccable, and he just floated it to Shi Smith. And I mean, on a dime.
Yeah. This is from Yarkey. Has wide receiver Cornell Powell been a disappointment at Clemson? He just hadn't had a chance to play.
Yes.
He's blocked by like 4 guys.
Don't get his chance now.
T. Higgins, Amari Rogers, DeAndre Overton. I'm missing one. Give it to me.
You had Higgins, didn't you?
Higgins.
Rogers? Did you say Rogers?
I said Amari Rogers. Higgins, Amari Rogers, DeAndre Overton.
Hunter Renfrow.
I'm talking about of the younger guys.
There's Powell. There's Overton. Did you say Overton?
I did say Overton.
So anyway, that's pretty much everybody.
Yeah, I thought there was one other that I was missing, but yeah, he's been blocked. I mean, it's not a bad thing. They have a
plethora.
I was going to say plethora. Yeah.
Yes.
Of wide receivers. TJ Chase is who I was thinking of.
He's hardly touched the field,
but he was on the field.
20-19, Furman, East Tennessee State. 8 minutes to go. That's going to be a heck of a ball game.
Yes,
I got a feeling. We got Winthrop coming up tonight on TV.
On 9 o'clock on the U.
Okay, Upstate in Jacksonville, 34-34. First half of that game. So that'll do it for tonight. Tomorrow night is Friday. Big Friday. We'll get you ready for the weekend of basketball. We'll hear from some of the Gamecocks tomorrow.
Some Gamecocks, and we'll hear from Brad Brownell on the Clemson side as well.
Look forward to that. More in recruiting. Get you ready for the weekend of some official visits. Not like it used to be. It's not like we got 10 or 15. It's just a couple here and there. I think I've got one uncommitted visiting USC this weekend, and we heard about the 2 DBs visiting Clemson.
But we're committed to giving you the best sports talk and the entire world.
Oh, you just picked up on that so nicely. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.